In February of 2024, Rocksteady Studios released a much anticipated follow-up to their Batman Arkham series, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and its reception was what an EA executive would describe as constructive.
That's a euphemism for not as positive.
I am one of the 12 people who couldn't wait to see how awful the game actually was, but almost instantly after the credits rolled on the game, like many people, I had decided to go back and play every single entry in the series to see how well each one holds up today. Join me over the course of 6 videos as I explore the Arkham series, the ups, the downs, the pros, the cons, and ask if these games are as good as everyone collectively remembers, or if they've aged as badly as Rocksteady's quality control.
You played yourselves. Welcome to Task Force X.
I struggled for quite some time, wondering where and how to talk about probably the biggest through line of the entire Arkham series.
Riddle me this. Why would a Batman visit an abandoned orphanage?
The Riddler. I'd written entire sections dedicated to complaining or praising the different challenges and trophies that are present in every game, but it always felt out of place. And I think that's because the Riddler trophies, whilst being the most iconic part of the Arkham series, are really just added extras. They don't really add anything meaningful or have a powerful story narrative, but when you say Batman Arkham, the first thing I'm thinking of is that bowler hat motherfucker and his endless insult to my intelligence. And I think that's because the Riddler trophies are something so unique to the games themselves. They're not really something that could be done in any other medium, because the challenge that the trophies present are so uniquely video game in nature and presentation. What's even more interesting are how they change over the course of the different games. And you may be thinking, well, they don't change that much, they stay relatively the same over the course of the games. And sure, the trophies themselves do, the finding them, the picking them up and all that, but there's distinctly different feel between how you acquire them in all 3 games. Arkham Asylum, for instance, the scope of the game is much smaller, and it's a lot more Metroidvania inspired than anything else, and as such, almost all of the trophies play into that. Just think about how many of the trophies, or even destructible collectibles like the Joker teeth, you couldn't get in your first run through of the map because they were in an area you couldn't get to yet. Well, that's because the game is designed to be a Batman Metroidvania, and it works really well. The other Arkham games also kind of do this, but to a much lesser extent, and I can't really remember too many that stand out or are satisfying, because the open world aspect of those games are the unique aspect of their trophies. A lot of the further Riddler challenges in Asylum are also story beats, those History of Arkham spider things that tell you about how the mayor is crazy, or the interview tapes that give backstory on the villains you fight during the game, and of course the riddles themselves, which are possibly the most unique yet most consistent across the entire games. Of course, in many ways though, Arkham Asylum's Riddler challenges and trophies are just the first version to a more refined in Arkham City. In many respects, City doesn't look to overhaul the Riddler challenges, but rather refine what worked and perfect it, which for the most part it does, because despite the game becoming more open world, the trophies themselves stay rooted in that Metroidvania design, where you need the gadgets you get progressing the story to get all of the trophies. The Freeze Blast is the biggest one that comes to mind, because it's the one that I always forget I need right up until I actually get it and remember all the trophies I spent ages trying to get without it. Arkham City doesn't stay restricted to just this though, because there are many trophies that you can only get through the new movement they added for the open world, as well as trophies through physical challenges where you have to do specific combos or traversal challenges. Rocksteady do continue this trend, having Riddler trophies be tied to the new element they added into the game, and Cities is all about movement and combat, and there is an entire section of challenges based around this. Of course, it does have its drawbacks as well, because Arkham City is the game I spent the most time getting all of the Riddler trophies on, because my mental illness, I set myself a challenge of getting all of them in all of the games. And near the end, the final few trophies were near impossible to get because of the scope of the game and the specificity of destruction challenges. Rocksteady knew what worked for Riddler trophies in Asylum, but didn't correctly scale elements of it for the open world. It's the balloons. I'm talking about the balloons here. That last fucking balloon kept me playing for 20 extra minutes. And it was just, I hate it. It was awful. Anyway, the biggest difference between City and Asylum is how you actually deal with the Riddler. In Asylum, you just call a tip into the police and hear the Riddler get swatted as he talks shit. But in City, you have to infiltrate his base. You have to walk through his maze of hostages and free the ones that remain, and also manage to sneak up on him as well. And any mistake ends with the death of one of the hostages and forcing you to restart. I think it's the best side mission ending in the game, and it slightly annoys me that you have to collect all of the Riddler trophies to be able to get it, because it deserves to be played and not just seen on YouTube. Few of the challenges to be able to get to the boss room would have made the Riddler challenges in City much better in my opinion. Even if you can get info on all of them from the Riddler informants, it doesn't feel as satisfying in the end because you spent more time tracking down each one than you did trying to find the literal League of Shadows. I won't spend too long on Origins because it was the only game I didn't get all of the trophies. And I put trophies in quotation marks because, like the rest of the game, Origins does the origin of the Riddler, where throughout the entire game they're calling him Enigma.
Don't call me Joey, call me Enigma.
It's dumb as hell, and I don't care if it's accurate to one of the comic origins, or if it's an Easter egg, it's annoying. And his trophies aren't even challenging, but rather just a go here and press a button, repeat 200 times. The trophies are like the rest of the game itself, vapid, shallow, and entirely missing the point. No riddles, no thought, no comment. Arkham Knight is probably the most interesting when it comes to the Riddler trophies, because Rocksteady once again takes what works and tries to refine it, and add new twists based on the new design choices they added to the game. I think Knight's best Riddler trophies are the ones with the Batmobile. I really like the Batmobile button-based ones for some reason, and I felt the difference from the other type of trophies separated them nicely and uniquely without pressing the gimmick too far. I feel like there weren't enough races. I really enjoyed the races. The actual puzzle elements with the Batmobile for the collar keys felt a bit clunky, but the races felt right when playing with the Batmobile. Other than that, I think the map was far too big for Riddler this time around. A lot of trophies, sure, but at this point, the Riddler needed something to make them feel fresh. Arkham City was already pushing the formula to its limits, and Rocksteady defaulted a lot of the time back to hiding the trophy behind some solid puzzle work. But sadly, the biggest puzzle was actually finding the fucking things half the time. In limited areas like the studio or Stag airship, the trophies worked, and the more hidden ones were not just hidden, rather I was dumb. Outside of that though, it was a massive chore. You spend a lot of night flying above the street or racing around in the Batmobile, so the only chance you get to interrogate an informant is when they're in a car, and even then, one mistake like hitting him instead of the guy next to him or not braking quick enough with the Batmobile as he's crawling out of the car and accidentally shocking him means losing valuable intel and setting you back probably 20 minutes. Farming Riddler informants isn't much better either, as it feels as much for grind as doing some of the trophies via an IGN list, and at one point you will most likely cave and just Google where all of them are so you can actually get to the fun part. The bomb rioters are probably the best addition to the normal trophy hunting collectible streak, alongside the little robots that Riddler created as well, but a lot of the trophies really did feel like old ideas stretched over too big of a map, especially the timed race challenges that harken back to the Zaz style missions from City. But wait, I'm not finished yet. Arkham Knight may be the proper last Arkham game, but you probably didn't know because you probably didn't play it, but Suicide Squad also has Riddler trophies. Now you're probably saying, oh well, they probably suck as much as the rest of the game does, right? And you would be correct. Yes, they do. They're not smartly hidden at all. I think every Riddler trophy is just like hanging out, just like vibing, not giving a shit. The most complicated Riddler trophy you'll have is hanging on the ceiling. Genuinely, I'm not kidding, there is no puzzle element to finding these trophies. They are just there, living. The riddles are a little harder, not because the answers are hard, mainly because I found it nearly impossible to get the fucking system to recognise I was trying to solve the riddle. I spent more time trying to get it to figure out I was solving the riddle than I did fighting the bosses of the game. Too close and it's obstructed. Too far and I'm not in the riddle area. It's not as bad as Enigma, but I mean, it's not good. It honestly makes me appreciate the Riddler trophies from the original 3 Arkham games a lot more, because despite my misgivings with all of them, they at least try to give a challenge. Sure, there are some gimmies where the trophy's like behind a box, but if you're going for all the trophies, you're going to have to put some effort into both finding them and solving the puzzle. And whilst not all of them hit the mark or are satisfying, Asylum, City and Knight all bring something different to the table, where Origins and Squad just kind of fumble about, not really understanding what to do with the franchise staple. My biggest wish for the next Arkham game, if we get another Arkham game, is to take a big risk with the types of challenges the Riddler trophies present, and not to stick with the familiar ones that work. Also, remove the timed ones as well, because they stress me out, and I really do not like them.
Frightens me. I am the Riddler, and you will not.